Hi, everybody. It is February the 10th. And next weekend, we're not having this because we've got the class. So I do hope you join us and spread the word about that. There's a little room left. Not really. It's online, so there's plenty of room left. All right. So we have quite a turnout so far, and it is the level 7 and 8 that I have been a lot more prepared this time than I was for the 5 and 6. Yes, I did similar to the 5 and 6, and I went through to save yourself from getting a worn out wrist or falling off your hand due to note taking. So there will be note taking, but I've prepared a lot of notes ahead of time, and we'll be going through those. So it's going to be a wonderful class. So spread the word and come join us. The only prerequisite, or the prerequisite, is completing levels 1 through 4, either in person or online or DVDs, however you've accomplished that. So join us for that and share. Please share these videos. Let them know about the live broadcast, the ones who can attend wherever they're at in the world. There are people that are waking up in the middle of the night and doing different things to attend this, or maybe they're already awake. I don't know. Because it's different here because you can ask questions. We address them. And then, I post this a few days later, usually typically around Monday, and that's on the Rumble channels. So share the Rumble channels, please, and comment on those. Not only is up and down, but there's comments. The H&U, Health News Updates, which is free, and that is growing. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. It needs to be multiplied because the time is very short. And we need to get the word out there from sources that we can trust the information. And, if you can't trust this information from here, I don't know what to tell you. I'm trying to do the best that I can to filter everything possible, to double check, triple check, quadruple check, and just go all the way with it and find out what the Lord is doing, because that's where the buck stops. So share these things. There's also plenty of things on our website. Articles, the journals, the past journal issues, lots of stuff, free downloads. I hope you're keeping up with those. I'm going to add some more to that because of the things we're going through now. We're getting bombarded with what I think is coming greatly, very quickly. It's already starting. It's the inkling. Everybody doesn't know yet because it hasn't become that in your face. Although you are seeing some more things in the news here and there. If you get that by somebody telling you, or some kind of social media and all that stuff. But people dropping dead. If you remember in the very beginning, when I started doing these, and I was doing, I think in the beginning, 2 or 3 a week, just to keep you on top of things and what was going on, because we found out early on what was happening. And so many people in the country and the world still don't have a clue. But what we said, according to all the things and the experts, that hasn't changed their opinion, is that around the 2-year mark is when you're going to see a much greater rise in death. And we're in it. And that time is coming and it's happening. And they're trying to do their best to keep it out of the media. There was I just found out last night, the world's top race car driver had a interesting accident. This guy is super safe. He doesn't have those type of accidents. He's got all the money for all the safety and all the precautions and everything else. He does stunts with very custom. His cars are custom built from the bottom up. Anyway, we are at the time where you hear of any kind of death. We're really at the point where I wonder what that was really about. Was it the jab? Were they taken out? Were they silenced? That's the reality of where we're at. The infighting that you see. But don't be shaken if you keep your eyes on the Lord. Period. What you see are things that have to take place for all of this to come to an end. There has to be a shaking up. In every war and every type of war, that's the way it is. So there was a chat that came in right at the beginning, and it said, do you trust realrawnews.com? I had not heard of Real Raw News before, so I couldn't comment on that. I did a little search and found out the person who owns it and operates it now, which is Michael Baxter, was a former mainstream journalist. So here's the deal. Kari Lake in Arizona, I think she's great. And I think she's a fighter, and she's fighting and hanging in there. And she was a journalist. So does that mean we wipe out all journalists? No, we don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, nor the bathroom or the whole neighborhood. But we do have great discernment, and that anything can happen and anything can change. So I'm not going to give off the cuff opinions. I will say something short about anything that's on the networks. I don't trust. I simply don't trust them. So I hope you guys are doing good. And we're well into this. Oh, so much to talk about. So please share the broadcast and do what you can with that. Keep sharing the word and keep praying for this. That prayer that I put out on here time before last, I then put out on TKM Talk and Health Facts. And I do hope you'll join in. We did get a lot of people that gave us feedback. It wasn't on the main sites because I provided another email so it wouldn't get all blogged up with email responses. And I did get a number of responses that people are going to join us in that prayer. I hoped and wished for many more. And I also know that there's always many that are going to be active without responding. They're not going to tell you, but they're going to do it. That's with most things. So I appreciate all of those and hope that you would help us join in for that prayer for TKM, for the world in need, and to share it everywhere you possibly can, and keep sharing it and keep sharing it and keep sharing it. And try to get groups, try to get all types of people to help join in and pray. Why? More is better. You ever heard me say that before? More is better. All right. So here's the thing that's on my mind and my heart. We can get the questions and talk about a lot of other things. But this week, we have had more contacts than a prior week that I know of, and more than sometimes a month that I've known of. And the top rating things have been happening the last couple of years. People contacting us with people that have had heart attack or stroke. Now, I'm not talking about hearsay. I'm talking about people that we know. They're either past clients, students, some kind of relation that we know. Okay? So this is not, well, somebody said, and my cousin and my neighbor and my this, or, oh, I heard and read. No, I'm not talking about those. I'm talking about where it comes to you know them. The name, boom, oh, I know you, when the name is mentioned. This is just a tiny sample of what's coming. And the part that gets me is that especially these people and everyone that knows us, that we talk about these things, you know what to do. And what I have talked about on and on since the very beginning is preventative medicine. It is always best to prevent these things than it is to try and do something when they happen. So let me ask you a question. Heart attack, stroke, those are cardiovascular. What happens with the majority of everybody that happens to? The top things is one of two things. One, you die. The other one, you have permanent damage to some degree that changes and impairs your lifestyle from then on. And it may end in death from that a little while later. Because if you're doing any of the normal stuff, any of the mainstream stuff, and actually many of the so-called natural things for those issues, my experience for a few decades is you're still going to get the same problem. I have provided the solutions. I have helped people that did survive strokes and heart attacks, that were paralyzed and couldn't move and couldn't talk, and help them recuperate, that were told that after the heart attack, they're going to have either a quadruple bypass or if they want to survive and they need to do it immediately, they did not get it, and they recovered phenomenally and broke all the hospital records. So I'm not talking about something that is a theory or a philosophy or a percentage. If you do the right things, you will recover. There's an if you do the right things. Now, my main thing right now I'm talking about is I want people to do them now. It's like cancer. I got to the point to where I'm tired of dealing with people coming with diagnosis of fatal fourth stage metastasized cancer and then trying to get them educated, on board, cooperate, and do everything I can, depending upon their cooperation, to save their life. And I get everything from, no, thank you. I'm going to go back and do exactly what the doctor said, which I will show them the reports that I'll just, depends on the age, male or female, what type of cancer, where it is, to what degree. But I'm just going to pull one out of the hat according to their statistics of what they do if you do everything they say. Well, 99% chance within the next year, you're going to be dead if you do everything that they say. And they say, well, I'm going to go do that. I'm going to go do that. Okay, that's your full right. To the ones that say, yes, I'll do everything you say. I will help comply. We pray about this, and I work very, very hard. And then it comes to find out that they don't do a lot of it, and they mislead me and tell me they're doing things. And here I am, because I put it all in. Okay, what does that mean? I think I put more in than they do to save their life. I've seen it over and over. And so I don't like that. I don't like to play that game. So I've gotten to the point to where I will see people that are diagnosed with cancer after I've talked with them and see that they're serious, if there's somebody else that will oversee them. Now, right or wrong, however you want to take it, I don't like seeing people die horribly in horrible suffering and pain. Remember, I've been there twice. I was supposed to be, by God's grace, I am not, dead several times over. I'm very familiar personally with suffering, and along with working with lots of people. Same thing with heart attacks. I have seen too many people go in with basically not severe angina pectoris, but just angina to a severe degree. And they go into the emergency room and they know stuff. They know what to do, but they go there because of what? Fear. Fear. That's really the number one thing. They go there and they don't come out. They were doing stent, and sometimes, what you have is like the ones that get it on their insurance reports later, and their doctor says, well, we put one stent in, or we put two stents in. And then they look on their insurance, what they're billed for, and they're billed for 5 or 6. They say, what is this? You told me you put 1 or 2 in. They say, well, those are the other ones that failed during the operation. They don't tell you about that. And they don't tell you ahead of time about that before they do the procedure. They say, oh, it's a piece of cake. We do this all the time. They do it all the time. And it is a standard procedure for them. Part of the other standard procedures is human error. You know what? One of the other things can happen. It happened with a friend of mine. They were putting in a stent for not a major heart attack, for a minor thing. While he's in there, well, let's get this done. And, even if you have it's totally successful, it's a temporary patch, and they didn't address the cause for it whatsoever. Don't get me started on this. They punctured his artery, and he bled to death on the spot. This is what happens with stents when you're going in and putting something in an artery that's not supposed to be there. Accidents happen all the time. So what I'm saying is, whether it's a minor issue, whether it's a major issue, whether it's a minor procedure or a major procedure, what is the best thing to do? Avoid them altogether. Avoid them, please. So Heart attacks and strokes are some of the easiest things to prevent if we do the right things. I was just talking with a client this week, and they have a good diet. They take lots of supplements and stuff like that, up there in years. And I'm explaining how things work. And what the deal is, just make it short and sweet. When you were born, let's take the average, and that would apply to most. When you're a baby, if you were to cut in to your arteries, you would see pristine clean, just clean as can be. When they are an older child, you're going to already start seeing some stuff. When they get into our early 20s, you're already starting to have it gather upon the vessels. Depending on their lifestyle, I'm doing this as an average, but depending on their lifestyle, it could be accumulating a lot by then. But we're taking, the word average, we're taking average. Medically, statistics, when you get into your 40s, you're having narrowing. When you get into your early 50s, that's age 50 and above, you're getting into your highest rate of heart attack and stroke. Every 3 years after that, the percentages greatly increases. Now, if you exercise and you have a good diet and you take some good supplements, what you do is you don't prevent that. You slow that process down. It's still happening. So we've got to do things to actually clean it up. Let me just give you one little short reminder, and I think I've said enough about that one. Do you remember the case, and we've got this well documented, that the man in his early to mid 60s had gangrene set into his legs. They were going to cut off both legs because they'd already been working with him with 2 cardiovascular surgeons that were specialists for this, with no circulation in the legs. So we're talking about a cardiovascular issue with them all clogged up, right? No circulation in the legs, no nervous system. You stick them, they wouldn't bleed. So gangrene is set in because they were rotting. All that was recovered in 3 months. Okay? So you're talking to the wrong person again about, if you want to talk to me about God doesn't talk to people, God doesn't give visions, God doesn't do miracles, you're talking to the wrong person. I have too many personal experiences. I am a walking testimony of such things. I am trying to ring the bell so that people don't die or suffer permanent consequences because they didn't take the right action ahead of time. I'm not here to do fear or anything else. I'm ringing that bell to get active and do what it takes now. Because here's the deal. 99.99% of the people that have a heart attack or stroke and die or have permanent damage, prior to that thought, they were doing great. The day before, hey, 2 thumbs up. I'm doing great. So we got something here. That puncturing an artery during a heart procedure happened to my dad. Oh, I'm so sorry. Many years ago, but he pulled through. Praise God, by the grace of God. It is by the grace of God. Because when they're doing that up in there, depending on how bad the bleed out is, it's very hard to stop that with a main artery. Come on. In the time that it takes. So praise God. I would count that as a miracle. Praise the Lord. So this is a common thing that happens all the time. What about all the deaths that are happening right now that you're not hearing about? It's happening all day, every day. So here's the deal. Is it or is it not? There's many things that happen, but isn't that what you're finding out most about is cardiovascular related? People are getting blood clots. They're having stroke. They're having heart attacks, myocarditis, or what can lead to a heart attack and death. All the different names, it's all cardiovascular related, and according to the garbage, whether you've been jabbed, whether you've been transmitted to, or whether it has nothing to do with that by some chance, which is hard, and you just had your normal lifestyle, but you haven't taken care of these issues appropriately. So that's what you're hearing most of. Now, here's what stands to reason by the statistics and by the studies. and by what the prophets are saying, not by people that are guessing. This is what the prophets are saying God is saying. So what are we saying? What God is saying. That there's going to be a great move by God and great miracles this year. In months, there will be a revival that will sweep the country and the world. At the same time, there's going to be huge death. There will be smoke. There will be disasters. They will call natural disasters, like what we're seeing already that God also talked about repeatedly, was the huge earthquake that's killed thousands, and they're still talking about that. You're going to find it all over the world, the volcanoes and different things that they've talked about, even here in the U.S. But that God is going to watch after his people. My point is, think about this for a moment and then we'll move on. One thing that he said was that there will be such death, they will not have places to put the bodies. They will run out of places to put the bodies. I just noticed, maybe it's all my imagination, in the past few years, especially 3 years, they've built in our area 3 hospitals. One of the 3 they added on to. What they added on was a huge emergency room facility. I've never seen anything like this. I'm looking at all 3 of those hospitals, and the parking lots are generally mostly empty to what I'd normally see a hospital. You know, hospitals are typically full. Parking lots are typically full at pretty much any time. These are not. Why are they adding on? Why are they building the other one? And why is this one just caught my eye yesterday? I looked around where they're doing the construction, and they have the emergency, the entrance, you know, the flags and all that stuff saying emergency. And I looked around there, and there's the row. All the stuff, a row of emergency entrances. I don't know. I've never seen that in a hospital. I've seen county hospitals in big cities where they're the most busy with emergencies. They bring all the traumas there, the gunshots, knife wounds, all those things. And they usually have an emergency entrance versus emergency entrances. So just food for thought. What do they know that they're not telling us? And what is God telling us through the prophets? Are we going to just sit back and wait and see what happens? Are we going to think this? Or what are we going to believe? I say get prepared and praise the Lord because he reigns. And I pray the Lion of Judah come. And as far as all these other things, whether it is natural, there's not a lot of that going on now. It's the same as what's always gone on. What you're really having is induced now. Unnatural, heart attacks and stroke. Whatever the things were that led up to it, it ends up cause of death. They call it that. These are preventable things. And it doesn't matter what the cause, whether you were transmitted to, whether you were jabbed, or whether it was age-related and lifestyle. So I'm just going to give you some basics. I'm not going to give you a full answer to that because it depends on the individual. I will be putting up some basic things because that's what people want. You can help more people if you put it in a box and give them a box. But you limit how many people you can help that want to do what's in the box because you need to treat them individually. So I have to say that. If you treat them individually with this and they cooperate, it's 100%. It's 100%. But I will provide the box, and I'll add that on the free downloads as another one. But here's the no-brainers. We are mostly water. You've got to drink enough water, not ice. Don't put lemon in it. We had people again this week. Well, I drink a gallon a day, and they were extremely dehydrated. So the conversation turned out that they put ice in their water all the time, and they put lemon in it, which is a diuretic. I'm not going to get in depth of all these things. Vitamin C. You need a good quality vitamin C without food and other supplements. And I mean a professional grade vitamin C. And you need 2 types. You need type that goes through the gut, like your normal vitamin C that's buffered. And you need a lipo source to take at a different time. So that gets mostly into your blood. About 90% of that, to round off numbers, will go into your blood. 90% of the other will go through your gut. They both need it. Lumbrokinase. Lumbrokinase has changed. Dr. Mercola, he changed. He used to make the 40 milligram and was the only one that you could get that. Now the other sources have dropped off. Now he's not making that anymore. His highest one is 11 milligram. 11 milligram. And they're cutting back on more and more things that you can get. So, we've got it. We've ordered up even from people we didn't want to buy from. We've stocked up on all that we could get of the 40 milligram. So if you want to look and search for that and buy those up, or if you want to contact us for some, we're not going to sell you the whole batch, okay? Get some of that. You need good oils, unheated oils. I've talked about this many times. Yes, you can use omegas, omega-3s. Combination of omegas is best, 3, 6, and 9. You can use something as simple and inexpensive and available everywhere as true olive oil, not the other blends and stuff. Extra virgin olive oil, and start taking teaspoons of that. Unheated. If you heat any of these, they serve the opposite purpose. They serve to help create stroke and heart attacks. Unheated good oils will offset that. And you can do a coconut. Everybody asks me about coconut because it's that craze. If they put it out there and they put it in some ads and they put it out on social media, everybody automatically thinks that's the best because everybody's talking about it. It's a fad. Fads happen in everything. They happen in nutrition, supplements, everything else. It's promotion of products. So that's allowable. It's not one of the top that I promote. So because of time's sake, I won't get into the details of all of those things. There's one other thing that I would add as far as a lifestyle or supplement, and it's from Sanum Company called Pleiostrop. It is so powerful in helping clean these things up. There's even a dosage from the company, and that's essentially a homeopathic. I don't know of any other homeopathic that will work like that. If you want to put your life in the hands of it, that you think that will, that's fine. That's your choice. And recommend it to other people. That's on you, not me. This one, you would take every hour if there's an episode, or you take a different dose as a preventative, and you take a different dose if you're in recovery after an episode. So I will help put those on that protocol. And we have this also for people that we have one after another of every single one that cooperates. Very fast recovery, that whatever hospital is doing the testing and stuff with them, break all records, historic records for them in their recovery. So I hope you get the gist. Is there any TKM? Duh. You could do the TKM if you didn't do anything else, if you did enough properly. Is there a blood recipe? Yes. What is that? Number 5, number 10, and these are sequences. Number 15, 23. So, of course, the 23-25 sequence needs to be there. And diaphragm sequence, diaphragm. Now, you want to narrow that down? Okay, here's the issue. We're talking about collecting on the vessels, or we're talking about the spike protein. We're talking about, let me do another one here for you. If you have not seen it, and I don't know why, if I recommend these things, that you're not checking them out. The documentary died suddenly, okay? The documentary died suddenly. You've got to check it out and pass that around. Share it. Share it. Share it with people that don't want to see it. Share it with people that don't believe it. Share it with people that have had the jab. And then show them where they can get help and how they can get help. So if you don't know the Lord, that's the first thing I would always suggest. Receive the Lord. He might heal you on the spot. So out of that blood recipe, 15 sequence. Why? Anybody know why? Because it cleans. Each one has its particular job that it does. The 15 sequence cleans the body. The 15 sequence, let me give you the example. The man with the 100% clogged arteries and veins was all cleaned up, primarily using the 15 sequence. Now, please understand, when you've had plaque that clogs up your arteries and veins for years, talk to surgeons, especially cardiovascular surgeons. And when they cut in, and they cut into those, it's kind of like it petrifies. It's not like rubber. It's not like died suddenly stuff. It kind of petrifies. So where did it go? We live in a miraculous world. This war is a spiritual war. We're seeing the effects. We are spirit living in our house and working with technology and different things. We live in a miraculous life and world and all God's creation. So when you're following the principles that we've learned of how this body works, and we're obedient in getting that back into order, miraculous type things happen. Now that's separate from God's supernatural intervention that we do through prayer, which we should always do. But I'm talking about the understanding of his creation and how things that you can't fit into your brain happen consistently. That's what I'm talking about with the 15 sequence. I would also include secondary, maybe way down from that for this purpose, the 2325, because that's circulation. But how are you going to get circulation through an area that's clogged up? So that's why the primary focus is 15 sequence. You know, if people are waiting, all the odds are that it will be too late. And that's why I'm emphasizing this. I do hope you get the message. I had something, also the TKM app. Am I plugging something? Absolutely. I put years into this and all the money we could scratch up. And that's where all the emergency procedures are. And we're adding more to it. So let me share something and show something with you that I shared on that was TKM Talk, and talk about that for a moment while you jump in with your questions. So I don't know if you were part of that, but did you see the one about palpitations? Now I would like to check that out because that is the first case that I know of that say that didn't work. So first off, I need to know if they did it like it says, if the person also took the metal off, if they held it long enough, so forth and so on, because all that is explained thoroughly. But I want to give you these. So this is the one that we've had, palpitations number 1. There's 3 steps, very powerful. Step 1, you're supposed to remain on if the heart is racing until that calms down. Step 2 is to do the same thing. And we've talked about this, of what these steps accomplish in detail. They're also on the app, TKM app. And these are not in any books. So they're in the app. There's some that I'm providing that are not going to be in any books. So the case that they talked about was AFib. Well, these don't say that they're for AFib, atrial fibrillation. But with atrial fibrillation, you normally have a racing or erratic heartbeat. So the difference, maybe I should give you some standard meetings there while you're copying this information down. This is the one that you have already. This is a new one. And then I'll talk about the difference of them. It doesn't make either one obsolete whatsoever, but I'll explain the difference. So some standard information is atrial fibrillation, often called AFib or AF, is the most common type of treated heart arrhythmia. And arrhythmia is when the heart beats too slowly or too fast or in an irregular or erratic way. So there's a lot of symptoms that can fall under that one label. Palpitations, what is that? Feelings of having a fast beating heart. Heart fluttering, so it feels like that, but it's not, it's steady. Or pounding, because it's beating strong. Commonly happens after stress, exercise, or medications. Isn't that interesting? Medications. It's common that it happens after medications. And I've treated people for that because of the medications. The simple difference, the heartbeat will be very erratic with AFib, but palpitations beats fast, but in a steady pattern, then slowly returns to normal. So that's the significant difference. Now, angina or angina pectoris, a symptom of specific pain when the heart is in trouble that reoccurs. So what most of the public calls a heart attack is angina. And then if it's severe, they call it severe angina. Up to what point? Let's talk about that. Severe angina pectoris or heart attack. The severe angina pectoris symptoms are what you experience up to the point of heart damage. That's the heart muscle and valves. Permanent heart muscle damage, which can also result in death. There are other heart and heart rate and pain conditions and TKM applications for them. There's a variety. Some of the TKM applications can help more than one symptom label. They can cross over to a large or small degree, while some are for a very specific issue. Ones like increased heart rate or decreased heart rate. Those are on the app as well. Let's come back and look at these two up here. So palpitations number 1, we see that both have 3 steps. Important to note, there is not a left or right on these. And they also both say sit on the right so that you can easily do this. So there's 1, 2, and down here is the one for severe angina pectoris, or what you want to call heart attack. It is a 1-step procedure. None of these is there a left and right procedure. It needs to be done exactly like it is. It not only tells you where to place your hands, but which hand where. That's very important. So the difference that we're seeing, or the same thing that we're seeing on step 2, left goes to left 10 on the 1, means palpitations 1. And on step 2, left goes to left 10. So that's the same. What about back over here on step 3? Right goes to left 17. On the other one, right goes to left 17. Those are the same. It's step 1 that is different. So it's 2 ways to get that heart to stop racing. That's essentially what it is. And that is left to left 7 and right to left 5. That's the original one. They're both working on the same foot with the 5 and the 7. That's the point. They're both working on the same foot with the 5 and the 7. That's not here. It's left to left 15 and right to left 16. So let me explain it first this way to group it simply. Down here, you're working below the 15s for cardiovascular and for energy spheres below the 15s. What have I always said, and it's demonstrated in the sequences and everything else in the books, is that 15 has to be open for these to work properly. So this is going directly to what does it, considering that 15s are functioning properly. Follow so far? And over here, you're coupling that. Instead of the 5, you're going to the opposite side, which is the 16. Now we know that 5 has a correlation to muscle and 4th stratum, the 23, the 5, but 16 is very, very powerful with muscle. What is it that you use with, for instance, the labor pain, which is 16 and same side 8? And what is it that we're dealing with is the heart going into heart damage, heart stopping? It's a muscle. And what are we doing with the 15? Opening the gate for everything below to work, like these other 2 as well. Although you're not touching those over here, but all the energy spheres below the 15. And remember what I've already talked about is 15 out of the blood recipe is the top one to clean the cardiovascular system. Whenever you talk, and I have taught in the EMT classes, the videos, for instance, the TKM app not only has text and images, but there are videos. There's 2 videos for every procedure. One is a quick video for emergency access to show the procedure to get it done. The other video is to give you more training and information and demonstration. So in those, it will talk about what is the next most important thing that if someone goes into a heart attack that you apply, the step to stop a heart attack, which is down here below. Then what do you do afterwards? You get the 15s to function properly, left and right side, meaning the sequence, the full sequence, to ensure that you're cleaning it up enough so that they're stable. Because when you apply the step for heart attack, it is just for the emergency episode. It is not corrective. Although we even have articles by cardiologists stating that when people are doing that, they've had enough recovery that it pulls them out of reoccurring severe angina pectoris and it doesn't happen anymore. And they send them back to work. From doing what? Using the emergency procedure. I don't suggest that. There's much more thorough, quicker ways to do that. But it has happened. My point is, the thorough way is to get the 15s to function properly after an episode. Optimally, before you ever have one, so that you don't get one. So this one is focused more on 15s and another aspect of working with muscle, opposite of the 5. They're both working with ankle. This is medial ankle. This is lateral ankle. Guess what they both work with? What is synonymous with ankles? Wrist. And what is that? 17 controls the wrist. 5s and 16 controls the ankles. It's opposite ankle and wrist correlation. But if you'll notice, the step down here is little fingers. When you can't hold 17 or other things, you're doing self-help or other options, we substitute it with little finger. What? 17. Because to help the little finger ascending and descending, it has to go through the 17s. So it's going to help that. And then you come up and reinforce that with either one of these procedures as the last thing you do. So the main difference between these two is just the first step for the two locations you're touching. And I wanted to talk about some of why. I hope that helped clarify that.
That did help, but is there a way to make that step 2 self-help without affecting it differently?
To be effective for what it is, I can suggest something you can do, but I can't say that it's going to work like that.
Okay.
And so, of course, the substitute would be the high 19.
Like right instead of left.
Because you can't do the same one, yes. So we're having 2 variations. You're changing from the supervisor help to helping it from the mediator perspective and on the opposite side of the body. So that's quite a difference, but it has a correlation. So generally, let's say if that serves the purpose, it's going to take longer.
So would someone maybe just do step 1 and 3 on themselves and get some benefit?
Absolutely. Yeah. And here's the suggestion on these, which I've said and have written before, is that you essentially stay on step 1, either until the heart calms down or 20 minutes. So we're expecting step 1 to calm the heart, and the rest is follow through.
Good point.
That same thing applies for both of them. In fact, if you know both of these and you're working on yourself, you could do step 1 of one of them and just do step 1 of the other one, because you can't do step 2 on either one of these on self. But you're working at it from 2 different directions to be more thorough and to just stay with that until it calms down. And then you could do the substitute for step 2 and do step 3.
Good. Thank you. That was great.
Now, here's another one while we're here, is I wanted to reiterate, and we've had these, and let me give you an idea. This week, there was someone I did a phone counsel with that sent me the blood test results that their doctor also got, and they did this. So I'm highlighting what these are to be. And they had, I'm not sharing names and stuff, but this person had, just give you a simple description. From the hip all the way down to the foot, severe leg pain, very severe, and swelling and disablement. And they had the blood test and showed them to the doctor, and doctor says, well, I can't find anything wrong. Now, in the test on the D-dimer and things that showed on the ProTime and the PTT, even had words in the category that explained, and it was out of rate, it was too high. One that needed to be in range was too low, and low meant blood clots. And the other one that should be in range. What was too high, if it was too high, it meant blood clots. And they were both that way. And the medical doctor says, well, I don't see a problem here. I'm telling you, do I need to explain that? It's written right there in plain English and print on the blood test itself. So we're resolving that for them. What I'm saying is, remember, please remember, this is spiritual warfare. There is deafness, there's blindness, there is, I'm trying to think of a nice way to explain these things.
Total confusion.
Total confusion, a spirit of confusion. And then also what many don't know, and I'm going to give the example. Let's say a doctor that is well-meaning, he got into practice strictly to help people. It wasn't for money, it wasn't for fame, it was to help people. And let's say that he's received the Lord and loves the Lord, but he is under a system that is dark and evil, that is controlled by another system, Pharmakeia, that is witchcraft, that Satan is using the globalists to kill hundreds of millions of people around the world. Now, are you going to tell me that that's not going to have an influence or an impact on that person? Being able to see and think and hear if they're blinded to that truth that's happening? And then we're going to go and depend on what's governed by Pharmakeia for help for the things that they're actually causing? That's not stupid. That's insanity. Did I misquote that? No, I think I said that correctly. If anyone is offended by my bluntness, I'll pray for you. Okay? I don't know what to do to wake people up anymore. I think they're desensitized. The ones that are not awake are desensitized. And I think so many that are awake are desensitized. You know, when you see things and you hear things so much, it just kind of goes right across. We've got to wake up, not to fear, not to worry, but to take right actions. Okay? So let me address some of these things. Could you spell the homeopathic product? Well, hope you can get that. If you get it anywhere in this country or anything, it's going to be a, what do they call them? A fake one? Because there's a lot of those. They've tried to duplicate those. But you spell it S-T-R-O-P-H. Strope. S-T-R-O-P-H. If you trust this brand, Doctor's Best has Lumbrokinase 20 milligram per capsule. If it's Lumbrokinase and nothing else, that's fine. And 20 milligram is one of the higher ones that you're going to find now. You used to be able to find 40 milligram. But as long as you get it. We don't carry Doctor's Best. We're going to carry another one, but we also still have quite a stock of Dr. Mercola's. That wasn't who I was going to carry. I was going to carry somebody else's. But even though Dr. Mercola's is very expensive, the other was twice as much money. And now they have gone up and the milligrams have gone down, like so many things you're seeing. So for self-help is an emergency. No one else around. Would step one of either hand be the sequences? If it's self-help, you don't need to switch hands. You can do that as it says. It's the location of step two is the issue. Don't switch the hands. You're not doing a left or right side, and you're not doing a left or right hand. Don't change it. This is too important. You know, some people say, well, what do you do for heart attack if you're by yourself? What we call heart attack, severe angina pectoris, because that is holding left little finger. And when you're talking about left little finger, I even go all the way to the rest of the digit. So you got 3 joints here, all 3 joints, and even further up in here to get as much of it as you can. You see what I'm doing? And this is my left hand. You're encompassing the entire hand. And then your right hand is supposed to go back here. to T5. So you could do this. If you're having a heart attack, the likelihood of that is not very good. So what we suggest is doing this and putting it through to the other side of the body, which would typically be center of your 13s. I was just asking if only step 1 would be helpful. Step 1 might be enough to calm it down and seemingly regulate. But in all things, follow through with the other steps, including that you're either doing a variation of the second step or you're passing the second step to do the third one. But step 1 and step 2 are primarily for getting the heart to slow down and regulate. So did you get that self-help? This does not work near as well as doing it the way you're supposed to do it. There's substitutes. Now, here's another thing. It's like the person that said that one time that I haven't been able to verify the reasons why. What if you have scar tissue related to any of these areas, maybe right on the area or interfering with that area? What if you have metal on or in it, in your body there, a staple, a wire, whatever it is, a rod, some metallic object? What if you've had a watch or some battery operated device there? Are those going to have an impact? We found that people that are having a heart attack and they apply the heart attack step, if they have a watch, this is especially with a battery operated device, that sometimes will hinder it from working. They'll see a difference, but it's not enough to stop it. The same thing happens if it's metallic. This goes anywhere from a watch that doesn't have a battery to a bracelet to rings. Any of these type of things are metal in the body. So if there's metal in the body, you can't take that off. So you keep applying the emergency procedure, which will halt it. My experience with all the feedback and the doctors and everything else that I know of, nurses, everyone that's doing this, it will not escalate past that. So far, that's all we've got. But it didn't completely regulate until you can do something about applying further help. And I've given you the sequences and other things to do. Variation step. Yeah, right. The opposite high 19 on step 2, the opposite high 19. There's a lot going on. It seems to be most of the stuff going on is technical these days, and we're having technical problems. Now, I was watching FlashPoint last night, and they were having difficulties, and they announced, and I'm seeing this on videos and everything, Robin Bullock, they're having their audio and video mixed up and gaps where it skips and stuff. And I'm getting reports for all of these. On FlashPoint last night, they said, we know that there's a lot of people that are not getting their announcements and their emails from FlashPoint. Why? Because they're being attacked, they're being interfered with. Whether this is happening broad spectrum, I don't know. I already told you, I started to put a new group that was going to be open, not private, but open. And I went to look at that to start it. And the first thing they had there was what they allow and what they don't allow. They have a name for that. And the list, 90% of that list was telling you they don't want to hear anything about truth. Don't talk about election. Don't talk about any far right agendas. Basically, don't talk about anything that, I don't want to even go through the list. Don't tell the truth. Don't talk about the jab. Don't talk about anything else. So I couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it. They're completely censored. So what am I getting? I'm getting in my email box now. My daughter sent me an email with a video and asked me that same day, did you get that? I said, no, I didn't see it. Let me go back and check. I went back and checked. Wasn't there. I look in my spam folder. My daughter's email was in my spam folder. Question, am I going to accidentally or on purpose put that in spam? No. You know what I found out yesterday? There was a lot of TKM messages on there and a lot of health facts messages that were put in my spam box. So I don't know what's happening with yours, but our stuff is getting messed with all over the place. The people who carry our stuff, they're getting lots and lots of attacks to shut down their things. And those techs are being overloaded all the time because of all the people that they're using contacting them saying, my stuff's not working. My stuff's not working. It's shutting down. And what the techs are saying in the background is they're attacks. They're overloading the system. And there's also the bots that are crawling around to search for words and everything. If they're there, then they're, I don't know how they do it. I thought you could only do it from this end, but tech age, I guess you can do anything you want. They're ending up in my spam box. So just be aware. That's why I'm also saying, please get the word out there while you can about all of these things. Share it. So far, we've had no reports of anything happen with the TKM app as far as being blocked, because that's always ready available. And we have it set up 2 ways that it's more secure. But one thing I was going to mention is we're going to put some supplements up online. Not all of the stuff we're carrying. And we've already got some that we're putting up. We're putting them up on the back end before we load them so that we can get all the data and everything there. But we're going to open that up because our rule from the very beginning up to now has always been that we do not sell to anyone without testing, because I feel responsible. I don't want you to take something that doesn't work or gives you an allergy reaction, Herxheimer, or any other kind of reaction or interaction with other things you're taking. Also, it has to do with, are you taking the doses correctly, and on and on and on. We want to see what it is for the individual. Well, I'm opening that up with a number of things because people are not getting enough help. And is it running a risk of those very same things that I said could happen? Yes. We've got to get this out there. What? The help. So please help us do that by spreading the word. Another question, interesting enough, as you were talking about this, your voice started breaking up. I am not surprised. If you look at a lot of the videos and things that are happening these days, if they're live, they're asking, sometimes they turn around, are we still on? Are we still on? This is a war, okay? Julie Green said that 80 to 85% of Italy's internet went out a few days ago. That's been rolling. It's happened here in different areas. You are not going to hear about it in any main news or any lying news. They used to call it lame news. Any lying news. You're not going to hear about any of that stuff.
I have a question before I have to leave. On scar tissue, if I did the treatment, a TKM treatment for scar tissue immediately following with one meeting the need, is that effective enough, or do I have to just keep treating scar tissue?
Effective enough for the episode?
I mean, yeah, for that episode.
My preference would be, if it's possible, if there was a need that one person is applying the step for the emergency, whatever level of emergency it is, and another person is applying the aid for the scar tissue. That would be ultimate. Otherwise, I would just apply the emergency procedure. If that was not working due to scar tissue you knew of, then I would apply help to the scar tissue and then go back to the emergency procedure. And that should help for the emergency procedure. Afterwards, I would be applying consistent help for that scar tissue, because it is possible if it was interfering with that process, helping her or him, it may even possibly be a cause.
Okay, so a non-emergency issue, treat scar tissue before every session?
I'll put it this way. If it was me, I'd probably work on it in a session, and I would teach and show the person how to do it. And I would want them to work on the scar tissue in between the sessions with me.
Okay.
So that I can work on more important things and they can work on something that's basically simple.
Okay, thank you.
You bet. You're welcome. About great information. Terms of service, really. Yeah, they got restrictive, but basically, if you want to tell the truth about anything that's important or relevant, you can't do it. I don't know how long any of these things are going to go on until this war is over. And it will be over. God wins. And those that are following God and keep their eyes on him, guess what? You win too. Difference between nattokinase and lumbrokinase, maybe for our next item. Okay, we can do that. Just know that nattokinase cannot do what lumbrokinase does. And lumbrokinase is many times more effective for that than nattokinase. Nothing wrong with nattokinase, but they're a huge difference. Send me an email with that, because once I close this, I lose all of the chat. So send me an email reminder for that. So God bless you guys. Have a wonderful weekend. With all this information, rejoice, because we know and have the truth, and the truth is Christ. He is the living word. We have his written word that he has fulfilled. And he tells us of this time. It's like Jonathan Cahn talks about not prophecy, but the template of the Bible, and understanding the spiritual warfare and how it keeps repeating. And what happens in each and every time? God wins. Satan loses from the beginning, and he loses in the end. So we just make our decision that we follow God in everything and all the time, in our prayers, in our interactions with people, in our thoughts, in our words, in our representation with other people, to share the light, to share the joy, even in the midst, in a wartime, where you can see little children playing while bombs are dropping at times, because they've been desensitized to that. We should be desensitized to the works of the evil in a way that it does not distract us from the good and the light and the presence of the Lord and the Holy Spirit. So I pray that God's peace be on each and every one of you, and that he leads you in his joy and his wisdom in all that you do. In Jesus' name, amen. God bless you. Bye-bye.